From being miserable playing Harry Potter's best friend for over a decade, to having mixed feelings about playing everyone's favorite Mr. Bean, here's a list of actors that didn't quite like their roles while filming, starting with Ian McKellen. Now, when he was asked to play Gandalf again in The Hobbit, so much had already changed. McKellen got to visit some fantastic locations while filming Lord of the Rings, and the British actor's booming, theatrical voice was definitely well suited for the character. So you might think that he was over the moon when Peter Jackson asked him to come back for the prequels. Unfortunately, the landscape of big budget films was markedly different by that point. Instead of shooting on location, most major film directors were trying to save money by shooting in front of a green screen, and Ian just wasn't used to working that way. The guy's old school, and he had a hard time adjusting to the new normal. Now, that's not to say The Lord of the Rings didn't have any green screen at all. It's just that Ian didn't have to deal with that the first time around. Although, at least he never felt sick of the role that put him on the map, because some actors ended up wishing that they could do literally anything else. Just take Rupert Grint, for instance. Sure, he played our favorite ginger, Ron Weasley, but that didn't stop the actor from hating his job. That kinda sounds odd. Yes, because Grint got paid millions of dollars. Any other person would kill for a chance like that, especially given all the fame it brought him. But the thing is, filming the Harry Potter movies kinda took over Rupert's life. You've gotta understand, the guy had to stick with the role for an entire decade. So it's easy to see why he started to feel suffocated. No matter how iconic the film you're working on ends up being, as an actor, you're still a human being at the end of the day. And oftentimes the burden of challenging roles can weigh pretty heavily on you. Just take a look at what happened to Shelley Duvall. Her performance in The Shining will go down in history, but it also ruined her mental health. This might be a controversial opinion, but The Shining wouldn't have been nearly as good without Shelley Duvall. Sure, she got a bit high-pitched with all that screaming, but I can't imagine how else she could have reacted. What with her husband swinging an axe at her face? It turns out that Duvall's tortured expression may not have been acting in the strictest sense, cause she was utterly distraught on set every single day. You see, Stanley Kubrick is an extremely demanding director. He often made her do 100 takes of the same scene. And if you've ever seen The Shining, you can imagine how much of a toll it would have taken on Duvall's psyche. Doing a stressful scene once is bad enough, but 100 times? It's no wonder she struggled with her mental health for the rest of her life. Workaholic directors are often the main cause of an actor's woes on set. While it can help make some great movies, the impact that it has on actors is pretty hard to deny. Did you know Robert Pattinson almost punched the director of The Lighthouse for his perfectionism? Maybe that helped him bring some of the endless tension that permeates every scene. The Lighthouse is one of the most unsettling films I've ever seen, and Pattinson's weary, resigned performance was a big part of that. Although, something tells me that he felt kinda like Duvall did while she worked with Kubrick, cause director Robert Eggers made Pattinson do take after take of the most uncomfortable scenes as well. There's a particular scene that really hit home for me when I first watched the movie. It's the one where Pattinson's character is walking across a windy beach, when, all of a sudden, he gets doused by a sudden wave. Now, do you want to know how they pulled that scene off? Well, Eggers actually aimed a hose right at Pattinson's face. It would have been bad enough if that happened just once or twice, but the Twilight actor had to endure this at least 5 separate times. I can totally see why he was about to knock the director's lights out, cause according to him, they filmed this scene on a super windy and frigid day, and I'd imagine Pattinson was shivering in his boots between each take. The thing is, Pattinson's pretty open about how he treats the job. He's not a method actor by any means, and he's never willing to actually suffer just for a good scene, cause that tends to be a pretty unsustainable way for an actor to work. In fact, even Meryl Streep could barely handle it in The Devil Wears Prada. In case this is your first time hearing about method acting, it's basically when an actor stays in character for the duration of filming. Now, when you're playing a role like Miranda from The Devil Wears Prada, who's a kinda terrible person that's no fun to be around, it can get pretty challenging to maintain that energy for months of filming. Regardless, Streep is about as professional of an actress as you can find, so she decided to take the method acting route to take her portrayal up a notch. That meant that she'd just lock herself up in the trailer after filming was over for the day. So while her co-stars and fellow crew members were having a nice time after work, Streep would be isolating herself to stay true to the role. She's gone on the record to say how depressed this made her feel, and she decided to never try method acting ever again. However, it's not just challenging acting techniques that can push performers to their limits. Sometimes the lead up to the day's filming can be hard enough on its own. And in case you didn't know, Jennifer Lawrence hated playing Mystique. In all honesty, I didn't like Jennifer Lawrence very much in any of the X-Men films she did. Don't get me wrong, I loved her as Katniss Everdeen, but she just didn't seem to fit into the role of Mystique all that well. That might have something to do with how stressed out she'd feel on set every day. Cause, you see, Mystique's iconic appearance, namely that rippled and bumpy blue skin covering her whole body, took 8 whole hours of makeup to create. That's right, Jennifer Lawrence had to spend an entire work day sitting in a makeup chair, and that was before filming even began. I feel like she was looking forward to ending her association with the character. It wouldn't be the first time an actor got sick and tired of their defining role. Just take a look at Rowan Atkinson's mixed feelings on playing Mr. Bean. The goofy, lovable man-child was critical to keeping slapstick comedy relevant in modern media. So much so that Mr. Bean is now held in as high of a regard as Charlie Chaplin's various characters. However, Atkinson didn't really enjoy playing the eccentric character all that much. He felt the burden of the character's fame pretty heavily, to the point where he'd be utterly exhausted on a daily basis. I kinda get where he's coming from. Playing Mr. Bean requires a lot of physicality. It might look easy, but that's just because of how utterly skilled Rowan Atkinson is as an actor. All of that running around and mischief, not to mention the weird, contorted poses that he'd make just to get a laugh out of his audience, requires a lot more energy than you'd think. Luckily for us, Rowan was willing to put the effort in to bring the character to life, and we're all grateful that he didn't let the stress get to him too much. That's all you need to know about actors who were miserable while filming.